Incredible call from a little girl saves her mother. What the Mafia boss revealed will shock you. Sophia's heart raced as she paced the dim confines of their small kitchen, the shadows stretching ominously along the walls. Her mom had never been late, especially after the diner closed. It was Friday night. The promise of warm meals and cozy laughter had slipped from her grasp. She glanced at the phone, a lifeline and a nightmare wrapped in one. Whispers about the number danced in her mind. Vincenzo. The Mafia boss rumored to wield power and fear with equal measure. Could she really do it? Heading towards the phone, the dial tone echoed, every click amplifying her doubts. What if he laughed at her? What if she made everything worse? But her mother was out there somewhere. As Sophia hesitated, the weight of her mother's sacrifices crashed over her. Late nights, tired eyes, and a worn-out smile that never faltered even when life pulled them to the brink. I can't let her down, she whispered, fighting her fear with stubborn willpower. Her impulse was fierce. She knew the world they lived in, where crime intertwined with the ordinary, where survival demanded courage. There could be no hesitation now. Taking a deep breath, she dialed the number that would thrust her into the dark abyss she had only heard of in hushed voices. Hello? The raspy voice on the line sent chills down her spine. With a quivering heart, she spoke. My mom's in trouble. She was taken by someone, a man with tattoos. Her words rushed together, frantic and filled with a child's raw desperation. The silence that followed felt like a looming shadow stretching over her hope. Kid, I'm not a babysitter, find someone else, he scoffed, his tone sharp and unyielding. She almost hung up, but something inside her surged, something fierce like a wildfire. Please. You don't understand. My mom, Maria, she works hard. The diner is everything to us. You have to help. Sophia poured out fragments of their life together, the laughter over burned pancakes, the dreams of a new house, the fights against hunger. Yet, she spoke not only of her love but of the life they led, intertwined with fear of losing it all. There was a pause, and in that fleeting silence, something shifted. The cold indifference in his voice began to thaw. You think your sob story is gonna work on me? He retorted, but the edge of his words wavered like a crack in ice. Sophia pressed on, her resolve building, feeling fire behind her words. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The silence thickened, tension charging the air as Sophia sensed his inner conflict. The imagined villain softened, wavering between the monster she feared and the man he could perhaps still choose to be. But then he laughed, a chilling sound that shattered her momentary hope. Why would I care about you or your mom? Loyalty means everything in my world. Sophia's breath hitched. How could she fight against the heavy chains binding him? Just as despair clawed at her heart, the line crackled, and the echo of a threatening voice pierced the fragile atmosphere. Vincenzo. We need to talk. It's about the girl. The words sent icy tendrils creeping up Sophia's spine, leaving her in a swirl of dread and uncertainty. Who could they be? With the stakes rising higher, the blurry lines between them thickened. Love, loyalty, and fears tangled into an insurmountable challenge. Would pure love prevail against the shadows of a world where innocence meant nothing? As the night plummeted deeper into chaos, Sophia remained trapped in her treacherous moment, heart racing, mind spiraling, almost lost as hope flickered, teetering on the edge of a dangerous truth. Sophia felt the cold grip of fear as uncertainty weaved through her thoughts. The calm appearances of their life at the diner seemed to crumble with each breath she took. Would she have to confront the reality of their circumstances? Was this the moment everything would change? She had only intended to call a lifeline, but desperation was morphing her into something unfamiliar, a budding warrior battling against the unknown. Loyalty means everything. Vincenzo's dismissive tone echoed in her mind. She sank back against a faded kitchen chair, the grain of the wood digging into her palm. What did loyalty mean in this twisted world? If it meant sacrificing family for power or maintaining dark allegiances, then it was a loyalty she would reject. It ignited a flicker of resolve within her. Her mother had instilled bravery in her heart, she wouldn't let that spark flicker out. Think, Sophia, she urged herself, recalling her mother's tales. Maria had often spoken about the value of resourcefulness and facing fears directly. This isn't just about you. Tension knotted in her stomach as she contemplated her limited options. She needed a strategy, a way to reach Vincenzo, and anyone who might help, perhaps those in the shadows who understood the balance between fear and respect he commanded. She stood, determination coursing through her veins. She could not allow fear to dictate her actions, she had to control the narrative as much as she could. Regaining some composure, she paced again, the rhythm of her steps echoing the ticking clock, a reminder that time was precious, and with every passing moment, her mother's fate hung in the balance. The realization hit her, in this world, knowledge was power. She had to learn more about Vincenzo and his operations. Sophia considered the diner and its patrons, the faces she had memorized over the years. Perhaps she could uncover details, find someone who might shed light on the darker corners of the local underworld. She needed allies, even whispers of alliance. Returning to her phone, she scrolled through her contacts. Perhaps it was time to reach out to Vanessa, the waitress from the diner who had her own troubled past but had once mentioned an uncle connected to the city's underground. Maybe he could offer guidance or insight. Sophia's fingers hovered over the screen as she battled uncertainty. Was she willing to step into that world? The soft ping of a new message broke her concentration. It was Vanessa, asking how things had been since their last shift together. A rush of adrenaline surged through Sophia. "You can do this," she whispered, typing furiously, crafting a message that balanced urgency and caution. She told Vanessa just enough to draw her in, adding that she needed more than support, she needed information, help in confronting the darkness that threatened to consume her mother. Before she could second-guess herself, she pressed send. Moments later, her phone vibrated with a reply. "Meet me after your shift. I have something to tell you," Vanessa's text read. It was vague, but Sophia felt a surge of hope mixed with apprehension. The path ahead was laden with danger, but the thought of her mother fortified her spirit. This was merely the beginning. Every step taken was a step toward empowerment. As the clock ticked rhythmically toward the rendezvous, a wavering thought stirred within her. Could she harness the very fear that haunted her to fuel her fight? Was this journey about to unearth strengths she never knew she possessed? Sophia took one last glance at the shadows dancing in the kitchen, a reminder that fear and courage often intertwined, challenging her resolve. The moment of truth loomed closer, but something bigger waited just out of reach, calling her deeper into darkness. Would she find the strength to confront what lay ahead, or would the weight of her choices crush her ambitions? As her shift at the diner drew nearer, the air thickened with anticipation. Sophia steeled herself for what was to come. Time seemed to slow, and the sense of inevitability washed over her. A storm was brewing, leaving her to question if she could confront the monster that had taken her mother away. The next chapter awaited, demanding everything she had left. Sophia's breath hitched as the clock finally struck the end of her shift. The diner emptied out. Her familiar haunt now felt like a hollow shell, stripped of comfort and routine. Dealing with the lunch rush had distracted her, perhaps conveniently so, but now the reality of her choices loomed menacingly. She pushed through the front door, scanning the dimly lit street for Vanessa. Her heart raced in sync with the anxious energy crackling in the air. When she spotted her, leaning against a lamppost with a cigarette, toying with a nervous habit Sophia had rarely seen, a surge of tenacity filled her. Vanessa, though seemingly an unlikely ally, carried whispers of worlds unknown to Sophia. The very essence of apprehension crackled between them as they exchanged glances. "Hey," Vanessa greeted, flicking the cigarette to the ground, the ember dying under her shoe. "You're early." She struck Sophia with a conspiratorial gaze, eyes darting around, ensuring they were not being watched. "Yeah, well, I'm ready whatever it is," Sophia replied, her voice steadier than she felt inside. She had fought too hard to let fear win now. Vanessa motioned her closer. "I heard things," she began, almost under her breath. "About Vincenzo, and some deals going down. Things aren't just about him. There are others, too." Each word unfolded like a map that might lead her deeper into this treacherous territory. Sophia felt a pulse of excitement mixed with dread. "Others? What do you mean?" The burgeoning fight within her began to hone itself, focusing on the promise of information. People beneath the surface. It's a network, families who owe each other, blood debts bound to loyalty. Vanessa's eyes darted once more, revealing the intense importance of her words. "You need to know what you're stepping into. This isn't just about your mom, it's about playing the game." A knot twisted in Sophia's gut. The realization of the complexities in Vincenzo's world intensified her resolve. "Then tell me how. I need to take action now." The urgency crystallized her intentions. If knowledge was indeed power, she was ready to seize it. "There are whispers," Vanessa continued, leaning closer. "There's a gathering tonight at the Crown Lounge. High stakes, high risks. He'll be there. But it's not just about him. This is your chance to show what you're made of." The air thickened with the weight of Vanessa's words. The Crown Lounge, an upscale club cloaked in danger, was a far cry from the diner's mundane walls. But Sophia felt a pulse of determination, recognizing this moment for what it was, a crucible that might either forge her into someone new or shatter her completely. "Go there, listen, and when you have something, get back to me. But be careful, Sophia. You'll have to navigate your way through that world. One misstep and—" "I know the stakes," Sophia interrupted, her voice low but resolute. Each sentence she spoke wound her tighter into the fabric of this dangerous game, binding her decisions to the woman she aspired to become. As they parted ways, a sense of clarity washed over her. This was it. No longer would she allow fear to dictate her existence or her mother's fate. She had taken the first step into the unknown. With a pounding heart, she walked towards the Crown Lounge, every step resonating with purpose. The heavy doors loomed ahead, promising both danger and the possibility of reclaiming her life. But doubts flickered at the edges of her resolve. Would she discover strength within herself that transcended mere survival? And what secrets were waiting in the embrace of the shadows? As the bass of the club's music pulsed through the door, Sophia halted, knowing she was on the cusp of something monumental. There was no backing down now. She would confront whatever monstrosity awaited her inside. Would she emerge a conqueror, or would she succumb to the very darkness she hoped to unravel? The door of the Crown Lounge swung open, revealing a world alive with pulsating lights and a kaleidoscope of laughter and music. Sophia stepped inside, her heart thumping in her chest, each beat a reminder of the stakes she now faced. The lush surroundings were meant to be glamorous, but to her, they felt suffocating, as if the atmosphere itself wanted to swallow her whole. She scanned the room, searching for a familiar face amidst the throng of expertly crafted personas and hidden agendas. The glow of chandeliers cast soft shadows over conversations punctuated by clinking glasses, but beneath the surface, Sophia felt an undercurrent of trepidation. The stakes, as Vanessa had warned, loomed larger than life. Sizing up the mingling crowd, she adopted a mask of confidence she hoped would hold together against the mounting pressure. The realization of becoming a player in this game struck her sharply. This wasn't merely observation, she had to engage. In an instant, her resolve solidified. She needed to listen, learn, adapt. A knot tightened in her stomach as she noticed a group congregated around a central bar, laughter reverberating between them. Among them, she spotted a figure who radiated authority, his presence unmistakable: Vincenzo. The Mafia boss. A man whose shadow cast a long path, one she would either choose to walk under or step decisively out from. Drawing a deep breath, Sophia glided towards the bar, adopting an air of nonchalance. Her eyes flicked over the drink menu as if she were a regular, studying the spirits listed as she eavesdropped on the conversations around her. Hidden insights layered within verbose banter, snippets of information clutched treasure-like within her grasp. As she leaned casually against the bar, two men nearby began exchanging glances, conspiratorial whispers filled with urgency. Words like deal and shipment threaded through the air, igniting sparks of curiosity within her. But as she focused, another voice broke through the haze. "It's all about alliances," a woman stated brazenly, "those who don't play are left behind." Sophia absorbed each word, feeling the weight of those implications. Alliances. This was not merely an observation from the fringes, this was an invitation to act. The fear she had been holding at bay began to morph into a palpable excitement. This was her chance to make a mark. Adrenaline surged through her veins as she embraced her purpose. She shifted her focus back to Vincenzo, observing him closely. His demeanor flickered between charming and intimidating, an unsettling duality. The air thickened. It felt as though everyone in the room was keenly aware of his power and influence. Just then, he glanced in her direction. Their eyes met for a fleeting moment, a flicker of recognition sparking, then fading. This was her cue. The door to deeper engagement had creaked open. As conversations continued to whirl around her, she took a single sip of her drink, letting the moment expand. She refused to let fear cripple her ambition any longer. If she needed an ally, an introduction to the world beyond her mother's past, now was the time to step beyond the threshold of uncertainty. She pushed off from the bar, steeling herself. Each step closer felt like a thread pulling taut, binding her tighter to the transition she was undergoing. Commitment to purpose began to fill the space where doubt once dwelled, her instincts sharpened through urgency. As she approached Vincenzo, the tension was palpable. She could either show herself to be a mere bystander or take action that would pursue her goal. There lay the heart of her conflict. Confrontation loomed large in her mind, but would this marked approach lead to opportunity or ruin? With each measured stride, Sophia not only sought an audience with power, but also unveiled fragments of the woman she was destined to become. The stakes were now hers to navigate, and just as she opened her mouth to speak, the room shifted, whispers intensified, shadows thickened. Unexpected faces stirred within the chaos, shifting her plans in a direction she couldn't foresee. Would they be a threat, or an unexpected lifeline? Sophia felt the ground shift beneath her as she navigated toward Vincenzo. The chaotic energy in the lounge intensified, a tide of unpredictability threatening to sweep her away. She instinctively sensed that the unexpected faces emerging from the shadows were more than mere distractions. They were active players, likely entwined in the very game she sought to enter. Her heart raced, an unsettling mix of intrigue and fear edging into her thoughts. Just as her ambition bloomed, the reality of the maze she was about to delve into tightened around her, wrapping her tightly like a noose. She hadn't come to play safe, she had come to take a stand. Yet the uncertainty clawed at her, whispering doubts that constricted her breath. As she neared Vincenzo, she caught the sly smirk of a newcomer, a man with slicked back hair and a tailored suit that screamed of money and danger. He was approaching Vincenzo, arm outstretched for a handshake, an overture that dripped with tension. Sophia halted, the instinct to retreat bubbling beneath her armor of resolve. It was an opportune moment to observe. "Leone," Vincenzo acknowledged, his voice smooth yet layered with authority. "Vincenzo, my friend," Leone responded, his words laced with feigned camaraderie. "I believe we have much to discuss." The case had been dropped, all eyes were on these two titans. Sophia's denouement momentarily shifted from her own agenda to the interplay of power before her. This was not just a bar conversation, it was a negotiation where trust was currency, and betrayal lingered like a scent in the air. Her body began to move instinctively toward them, the curiosity seizing hold against her better judgment. If she lingered here, she might glean the knowledge necessary to shape her own alliances in the future. Leaning against a nearby column, she adopted a casual posture while maintaining vigilance. Words flowed between the two men, each punctuated by subtle gestures weighted with meaning. You know the risks, Vincenzo warned, each syllable measured as if balancing a knife's edge. The territory we're charting is dangerous. Which is precisely why we should chart it together, Leone countered deftly. I have information that could ensure our mutual success. Success. The word struck a chord within Sofia. If only she could wrestle that truth away from them, drag it into the light. But Claudio's foreboding gaze roved near, drawing her instincts back into defensive territory. She sensed that stepping closer could lead to an involvement not entirely to her liking. But backing off now could offer only one alternative: forget the ephemeral reality of power and wander back toward her previous life. The tension was thick enough to slice, her mind raced. Strategy after strategy unfolded before her, visualizing potential interactions and diving deeper into risk analysis. It was as if a tiny ember ignited within her, summoning a hidden strength. What am I even doing? She whispered internally, caught between inertia and the desire to become someone whose voice could carry weight in these conversations. A sudden wave of laughter erupted from the adjacent group, distracting Vincenzo momentarily, and in those precious seconds, Sofia saw the opportunity she needed, one to test her resolve. Would she dare enter this tangle of formidable negotiations? Stepping forward, she cleared her throat, seizing her moment. Mr. Vincenzo, she called out, determination coloring her voice, wrestling against doubt as it clawed from the shadows of uncertainty. Both men turned at the sound of her voice, their gazes assessing her presence as she pushed past the fear coiling in her stomach. I believe we have something valuable to talk about. Doubt reared its head, questioning whether she could maneuver the tightrope between audacity and folly. Would they see her as a mere distraction or a potential ally? As their expressions shifted, a mix of curiosity and caution, Sofia understood, the decision she had just made, stepping into the unknown, could either reshape her destiny or dissolve into obscurity. The stakes had escalated. The air charged with expectation. But just as they opened the floor for her to speak, a chilling whisper filtered from behind. The name of her mother caught like a storm in the suddenly tense air. Would her past expose her vulnerability, or rally her to a new purpose? Sofia felt the weight of their scrutiny as she stood before Vincenzo and Leone, the two titans amidst a brewing storm of tension. The name that had slipped from the shadows curled like a serpent around her thoughts. It was her mother, an unyielding reminder of her past that could easily unravel the fragile web of ambition she had labored to construct. Who are you? Vincenzo's voice sliced through her turbulent thoughts, curiosity sparking in his eyes, but there was no overt disdain. Instead, she sensed an evaluation, as if he were weighing her worth against the stakes at hand. I'm Sofia, she replied, her voice betraying none of her internal chaos. I believe we're here to discuss a mutual interest. It surprised her how natural the words flowed, laced with confidence she wasn't sure she fully possessed. This was no naive supposition. In this world, interest equated to power, and power was the only currency that mattered. Leone's eyes narrowed, assessing her with the intensity of a predator. What interest could you possibly bring to the table? He challenged, his tone both mocking and probing. I know connections that could be advantageous for both of you, she stated, heart pounding with each syllable as the definitive shapes of her words began to materialize in the heavy air. The loyalty of people in your networks. I can turn those people into assets rather than liabilities. As she spoke, she could feel the atmosphere shift, the air thickening with growing respect for her presence, and a spark of intrigue igniting in both men. Interesting proposition, Vincenzo replied, his demeanor thawing slightly, yet still shrouded in skepticism. And who exactly are these people? Feeling the pulse of vulnerability throb beneath her bravado, her mind raced through memories both valuable and risky. She thought of her late-night conversations with contacts, half-truths blended with whispers of illicit affairs. She recalled every minute she had spent learning the hidden ways of the streets. They're the ones with access to information details that are overlooked by others, she stated, carefully choosing her words to mitigate any risk of revealing too much too soon. They've been marginalized, yes, but they're eager for a change in direction. I can help them find purpose within your operations. As she spoke, Sophia noticed the flicker of intrigue grow into recognition on Vincenzo's face. He understood the game. She could see it in the way his eyes shifted, acknowledging the vulnerabilities in his kingdom. I'm intrigued. Vincenzo stroked his chin, pivoting between interest and caution. But why should I trust you? What's in this for you? She had anticipated this question, and though her breath quickened, she knew she had to anchor her resolve. This isn't just about trust, it's about the possibility of redefining power, she replied, each phrase more deliberate than the last. I am tired of waiting for doors to open. I want to forge my own path and if needed collaborate with others who understand the value of strategic alliances. Her own words unfolded a latent truth she hadn't recognized in herself. She was willing to stake her claim in this unforgiving arena, shifting her identity from a passive observer to a decisive participant. For a moment, silence cloaked them, the gravity of her declaration settling in and forcing both men to confront the latent motivation driving her. Vincenzo, his expression contemplative, began weighing the odds. Could this woman be a key to broader ambitions? Leon, however, monitored with distinct wariness, his posture rigid, as if prepped to strike at any sign of deception. Very well, Sophia, Vincenzo said at last, breaking the tension. Let us see what you have to offer. But tread carefully. The game we play requires cunning and strength. As the words lingered in the air like a charged promise, Sophia felt a rush of adrenaline. She had breached the facade, she was no longer a shadow, but a figure stepping boldly into the light. Yet beneath that exhilaration lingered the reality, a burgeoning threat emerging from the knowledge of her lineage, a conflict between the past that haunted her and the future she sought to bequeath unto herself. Just then, a voice cut through the waiting silence, smooth and poised, a voice she hadn't heard in years. It sliced through her thoughts with precision. It seems we're discussing family business, Sophia. Her heart dropped as she turned to face the newcomer, dread enveloping her. The past had just stood at her doorstep, armed with the very secrets she had fought to bury. Would this confrontation snuff out her emerging influence, or could it be the catalyst that forges her destiny anew? Sophia blinked, the recognition of the voice drawing an icy chill down her spine. There before her stood Alina, a figure both familiar and frightening, as if the specter of her childhood had stepped into the present. Alina's presence shattered the precarious balance Sophia had just begun to establish with Vincenzo and Leon. What are you doing here? Sophia managed to ask, each word a tightrope stretched over a fathomless abyss. She felt exposed, her carefully constructed facade beginning to crumble under the weight of personal history. Alina, with her polished demeanor and sharp eyes, smiled openly, a veneer of warmth masking the sharp edge of her intentions. Isn't it obvious? I followed the whispers. You were always good at making connections, she said, a hint of pride laced with something more sinister in her tone. I thought it was time we had a little family reunion. The tension in the room thickened, creating an almost tangible pressure as the two women stood in stark contrast, one forged in shadows, the other in light, yet both deeply intertwined by blood and shared past. Vincenzo, sensing the sudden pivot in control, leaned forward in his chair, eyes flicking with a mix of curiosity and concern. What did you mean by family business? He asked, the authority in his tone demanding clarity. Sophia's mind raced. Alina was not merely a face from the past, she was a nexus of complications, holding secrets that could unravel everything Sophia had fought to regain. The potential alliances she had begun to forge teetered perilously on the edge of existence. We all have our roles to play, don't we? Alina replied, a knowing glint in her eye. You've stepped into a world you hardly understand, Sophia. But I might hold the keys to help you navigate it. Sophia felt an unsettling twist in her stomach. Keys. The mere word taunted her, reminiscent of locked doors from which she had long sought reprieve. But here was Alina, a wild card in her carefully plotted game, offering assistance that was as enticing as it was laden with peril. What do you want? she asked, her voice firm despite the uncertainty quaking within her. Alina stepped closer, her gaze unwavering. I want to ensure you realize your potential. You know our family's legacy. It runs deeper than you think. With my help, you could harness that, become more than just a player you could lead. A moment of silence hung between them, heavy with implication. The idea was intoxicating yet suffocating. Leadership was destiny she had aspired to, but alongside it lay a labyrinth of familial expectations and shadows from which she had tried to escape. I want to do this on my own terms, Sophia stated, determination lacing her words. She couldn't shake the feeling that Alina's intentions were not entirely selfless. Suit yourself, Alina shrugged, a half-smirk spreading across her lips. But the further you push against our past, the more it will push back. I could guide you and trust me, you'll need it. Sophia's mind reeled at the notion of relying on someone who represented everything she had distanced herself from. She turned to Vincenzo and Leone, silently gauging their reaction. Would they interpret this family drama as weakness? Would they doubt her resolve? Their expressions were unreadable, but she noted the flicker of amusement in Leone's eyes, as if he relished the unfolding drama. Vincenzo, however, appeared contemplative, perhaps weighing the potential of familial ties as a new avenue for influence. I will consider your offer, Alina, Sophia said slowly, her heart pounding with the acknowledgement that the decision she faced could either solidify her ascent or drag her back into the depths she had fought to escape. With that, Sophia knew she had a crossroads before her, torn between ambition and ancestry, light and dark. The mercurial dynamics at play threatened to derail everything she was attempting to build. Let us see what you can truly bring to the table, then, Vincenzo declared, shifting his focus back to business, though the energy in the room had irrevocably shifted. As he concluded, Sophia felt the startling weight of expectations settle heavy on her shoulders. The dance had begun, and in this high-stakes game, one misstep could lead to disaster. Yet, as the figurative music swirled around her, a deeper urge pulsed within. The need to discover who she truly was, separate from the shadows and whispers of familial legacy. This was her chance to carve an identity from the chaos. But as she stared into the eyes of her sister, that familiar chill creeping back, she couldn't shake the feeling that the worst was yet to come. What would this unexpected reunion reveal about the legacy they shared, and could she rise above it without succumbing to the shadows of her lineage? Sophia felt the atmosphere shift like a tide, turning against her as Alina's words echoed in her mind. The urgency of the moment pressed heavily on her, each heartbeat amplifying the complexities of her decision. If the ambiguity of familial loyalty had once been a shadow she could push aside, it was now the light illuminating a path too risky to ignore. As the tension danced around the room, she forced herself to remain grounded. She couldn't afford to show any signs of weakness, especially in front of Vincenzo and Leone. Their expectations wove an intricate web around her, one wrong move, and they could yank her back into the darkness Alina had woven. Let us continue with matters at hand, Vincenzo said, but his attention lingered on the electric pulse of unresolved tension. He seemed intrigued, a predator observing its prey, eager for the subtext of personal dynamics unfolding before him. Leone's eyes glinted, reveling in the drama. Sophia straightened her back, the voice of her interior-driven ambition rising above the confusion. Yes, let us talk business. Her voice was steady, conveying a renewed determination. She had carved a niche for herself in this world, and she wasn't willing to surrender it over a nostalgic reunion that threatened to pull her back into an identity forged in fear. But Alina's offer loomed over her like a storm cloud. The notion of leadership, enticing in its promise, provoked both ambition and an unyielding instinct for self-preservation. Could she leverage this reunion to her advantage, or would it spiral her into the vortex of family entanglement she had fought so hard to escape? The challenge spurred her to action. Vincenzo, perhaps it's time I present my ideas for the upcoming project. She shifted the conversation with calculated intent, attempting to redefine the trajectory of their interactions. Her pulse quickened, she needed to regain control, to demonstrate that the past wouldn't dictate her future. As she laid out her proposal, Sophia allowed her inner clarity to shine through. The plans she had developed on her own were solid, infused with both creativity and sound strategy. She presented graphs that detailed potential growth, forecasts that promised profitability, all designed to attract attention, ward off predators like Alina, and position herself at the forefront. But amidst her fervor, she could feel Alina's gaze boring into her, a mix of admiration and something darker. A shiver crept up her spine, and the weight of familial history pressed down again. Was she merely performing an act in front of her sister, or was she truly dismantling the chains that had bound her? "We might be more powerful together, Sophia," Alina interjected, her voice smooth yet cutting. "You have the ideas, but imagine the possibilities if you embraced our heritage." "No," Sophia shot back, her tone sharper than she intended. "I will not be defined by our past. I carve my own path. This is my moment to shape my narrative." The room fell silent, tension stretching taut like a drawn bowstring. For the first time, Sophia saw a flicker of something more profound in Alina's eyes, a respect mixed with disapproval. Her sister understood the game but longed for compliance. As the meeting progressed, Sophia caught herself stealing glances at Alina. Memories, murky and painful, bubbled to the surface. They were echoes of girlhood laughter mixed with looming shadows, reminders of the power struggles that had once defined their relationship. Was she prepared to confront that history and potentially the monsters lurking in the corners of her mind that were tied to her familial legacy? Vincenzo's voice broke the silence as he turned to Alina, a curious glint in his eyes. "What do you really hope to gain by getting involved with Sophia, Alina?" It was a direct challenge, testing borders that had remained unspoken until that moment. Sophia's breath caught in her throat. The stakes had just risen. Would Alina reveal her true intentions, exposing deeper familial allegiances that could threaten everything she had worked for? Underneath her composure lay an unsettling tumult of emotions. Was she prepared to face the repercussions of her sister's influence? The meeting concluded, but the unsaid words lingered heavy between them, an impending storm of discord and revelation brewing. Sophia knew she had only scratched the surface of her confrontation with Alina. As she left the room, her mind whirled with an impending sense of urgency. How could she pivot this encounter to serve her own purpose? What hidden aspects of her family's legacy would surface next, and would she adapt or succumb? The path ahead was fraught with uncertainty, but one thing was clear: Sophia was no longer a passive player in this game. She would fight for her identity and legacy. But the question remained, could she confront the mirror Alina would inevitably hold up to her soul? Sophia stepped into her office, shutting the door firmly behind her. The moment of bolt action allowed her a fleeting sense of security, drenched in the dim light filtering through the blinds. Alone, the weight of the meeting settled heavily on her shoulders, a tangible reminder of her growing resistance against her family's overwhelming shadow. She had dodged one bullet, but the next volley was already taking aim. Her gaze scoured the office, filled with designs, papers, and prototypes of her latest projects. Each item was a testament to her hard-fought independence, echoing her ambition in an industry where familial ties could either propel or entangle. Yet Alina's words haunted her, a chilling wind against her fervent flame of aspiration. They were not just reminders of who she could become, but of contrasts that shredded her resolve. Resilience was not a one-off achievement, it was a continual fight. As she settled into her chair, she felt a pull towards her laptop, the screen glowing with potential. What if she turned the conversations with Alina into strategic moves? She needed allies outside of her family, a coalition to bolster her position without falling into the web of history that Alina epitomized. The tapping of keys became a rhythmic chant, a mantra of creation and empowerment. Proposals morphed into presentations, and strategies flowed onto the whiteboard behind her. Outline tactics danced across the screen: new partnerships, potential investors, outreach initiatives. Each component increased the slope of her fiscal confidence, a bulwark against familial hostility. But even amidst the surge of creativity, an unsettling clarity settled in the back of her mind. Was her instinct truly leading her toward independence, or was it merely a reaction to Alina's claim? To explore this deeper entanglement, she needed tangible proof of her worth. Haste drove her actions, yet doubt lurked, a voice nagging at her that perhaps she was sprinting away from the very heritage she was trying to redefine. Time blurred as she shifted her focus toward a former colleague, Mia, whose familiarity had always sparked innovative exchanges. Reaching out, she crafted an email, her essence poured into each word. The connection felt rejuvenating, the purpose clear, a collaboration that would reveal the industry's cracks they could exploit together. Just as she pressed send, her phone buzzed, a message lighting up the screen. It was from Leon, instigating a follow-up meeting with both him and Vincenzo. Her heart raced. They were circling back, hungry for resolution on familial turf. Sophia paced the room, the thrill of her progress clashing with anxiety. Would they see her innovations as a dangerous leap or an escape from the familial noose? It was time to wield her voice, the very asset she had honed during countless battles against sisterly dominance. She needed to draw the lines of her new narrative boldly, making it clear that she was not seeking reconciliation but evolution. The evening was spent rehearsing her speech in front of a mirror, her reflection morphing from hesitant ambition to formidable leader, exuding confidence. As she spoke the words aloud, she carved sharper definitions of her identity, each declaration stripping away the shackles of expectation and painful memories. Every rise and fall of her tone reinforced her commitment to this future, her new self burgeoning under the weight of diligence. Yet, a pang of doubt crept in the very core of her. Confrontation with Alina would ripple through this new path. It was no longer just about her ambitions or the business itself, it angled itself toward a deeper familial dichotomy rooted in betrayal and allegiance. As the hours disintegrated into night, a certainty flared within her. The time had come to face the ghosts of her past head-on, a confrontation beyond mere business discussions. The moment drew near, and within it, the audacity of self-discovery danced across her spirit. Could she do it? Could she stand up against Alina's seductive embrace of heritage, all while claiming her identity? In this impending clash, it felt as if Sophia had regained some control, but the relentless fracture yet unexplored loomed larger. After all, every step forward could also be a precursor to deep revelations that would shatter every fence she fought to erect. As she turned to face her reflection one last time, she whispered a quiet affirmation. Whatever came, she wouldn't stand alone, and her time for truth was nigh. Tomorrow's meeting would be the crucible. Would she reclaim her narrative or surrender to the shadows once again? Sophia stood at the threshold of the conference room, heart racing as she waited for Vincenzo and Leon to arrive. Each tick of the clock mocked her, amplifying the magnitude of the moment. She had come too far to turn back, and today would be the day she seized control of her narrative. No longer would she be a mere pawn in a game orchestrated by her family or the shadows that lingered. Vincenzo entered first, followed by Leon, their presence heavy with expectation. They settled into their seats, and Sophia sensed the shift in power dynamics as their attention flicked to her with an intensity that demanded respect. For a heartbeat, uncertainty fluttered within her, but it quickly transformed into a steely resolve. It was time to articulate her vision, one that melded ambition with authenticity, asserting her place in a world defined by challenge. "Thank you for meeting with me," she began, her voice steady and authoritative. "I've been working on a series of initiatives that will not only bolster our networks but redefine our standing within the market." With each word, she painted a picture, laying out her strategies for growth and resource optimization. She spoke not only of profit margins but also of forging genuine alliances, utilizing connections that extended beyond the confines of their lineage. Vincenzo listened intently, an analytical gaze burning into her, while Leon's skepticism retreated into silent curiosity. As she outlined her proposals, Sophia increasingly felt the weight of her past dwindle beneath the urgency of her ambitions. She highlighted case studies from her work at the diner and further field research she had conducted, their effectiveness contrasting sharply with the chaos wrought by blood ties. "We can shift the narrative from one of inherited legacy to one of innovative leadership," she asserted, a challenge resonating in her tone. "I'm no longer seeking to honor a past that binds me. I aim to redefine the future with a voice that thrives on collaboration rather than fear." The atmosphere surged with challenge. Vincenzo leaned back in his chair, his intrigue growing, a flicker of respect glimmering in his eyes. "Bold approach," he acknowledged. "You've changed since we last spoke." Sophia's heart swelled with a sense of validation. She leaned into the momentum, crafting a compelling case that illuminated strengths crucial for success, a formula that directly contrasted her family's history of discord. Continued dialogue amplified the potential she had harnessed, her strategic insights proving to be a weapon against both skepticism and apathy. Just as she began to unlock the key dynamics of collaboration, however, Alina's shadow flickered back into focus. She entered the room, elegance cloaked in authority, reclaiming the space with their family's chilling legacy looming behind her. "What's this?" she inquired, an inflection of disdain threading through her tone. "A meeting without me?" Sophia's pulse quickened, a blend of anger and determination igniting her instinct to defend the foundations she had taken such care to secure. "A meeting about innovation, Alina. Something we stood to benefit from beyond familial ties." The presence of sisters momentarily shifted the energy. Alina's smirk was a jagged edge against Sophia's newfound resolve, a duality embodied in competition for power forged through contrasting methods. The confrontation held the room captive. However, it also began to refuel the fire within Sophia, forcing her to confront her fears head-on. With each word exchanged, strategic alliances took shape. Vincenzo's interest began to tip, and Alina's attempts to reclaim power faltered under the weight of Sophia's assertiveness. "This is my chance," she thought, conviction pouring through her as she pushed against her sister's influence, framing their history as an opportunity for growth rather than an anchor holding her in place. With newfound clarity, Sophia addressed both men and Alina. "Collaboration can redefine what we once perceived as limitations. I refuse to carry the weight of legacy with me. It's time to shift control into innovative hands." The silence that followed resonated with an underlying tension, as all eyes turned to Vincenzo, awaiting his verdict. He met Sophia's gaze, the potency of her message echoing through the room. She had emerged from the shadows, no longer a girl seeking validation, but a leader seizing her fate. "Let us explore these ideas further," Vincenzo replied finally, a signal of approval coursing through the air. In that moment, Sophia felt an undeniable sense of accomplishment wash over her. She had not only articulated her worth but had risen above the chaotic legacy of her past and carved out a defined role in the present. With renewed confidence, she continued to engage in meaningful discussions, her voice commanding authority, anchoring an identity custom-built from struggle and tenacity. As the meeting wrapped up, Sophia stepped out, breath rejuvenated by the air of victory. She had conquered the fear of her family's past, wielding it as a catalyst rather than a chain. What had once represented a burden now became an asset to her ambition. In crystallizing her achievements, she recorded her reflections, comprehending the journey she had embarked upon, a transformation from a frightened child to a confident strategist, defined by her choices rather than her lineage. The path ahead was still fraught with uncertainty, but Sophia walked it assuredly, her victories setting the foundation for a future freed from the shadows of doubt. She had proven her capacity to navigate complexity and emerge victorious, a leader in her own right, finally ready to embrace the life she had fought so tirelessly to forge. The battle for her identity had evolved into a triumph of self-discovery, and the horizon stretched wide and unexplored as she forged ahead. Don't wait even one more second. You need to subscribe now to follow this exclusive journey of emotional transformation. Leave a like now, your support is crucial to bring more incredible stories. Comment down below your thoughts, reactions, or predictions for what happens next. Share instantly with at least 5 friends who need this uplifting conclusion in their lives. Help them find their strength through Sophia's journey.